and welcome back to the Behind the Screen podcast. I am joined here today by my good pal, Connor. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. Good to be back. Good to be talking about the Sandman today.
Well, we're going to be talking about... Sorry. We're going to be talking about Adam... Sorry. We're talking about Adam Sandler today. And with Hubie Halloween coming out and Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler's always been a bit of a interesting guy just in terms of people don't like his movies, but they like him, it seems like. And we kind of want to figure out why people don't like him, why people do like him, and what's next for the Sandman, because it's clear this man is not stopping anytime soon.
No, this guy's a workaholic. He's a powerhouse. Like, you look at his range between comedy, like love him or hate him in the comedies he makes, and then more recently, like the dramas, Uncut Gems, Meyerowitz Stories, that sort of stuff.
Well, we'll start way back, but even goes all the way back to 94 Airheads. You've seen Airheads, right?
Airheads, yeah. Brendan Fraser is in Airheads as well.
And Steve Buscemi, which I assume is where he made his like lifelong friendship with Steve Buscemi, because there is no shortage of Steve Buscemi cameos in any of his movies.
No, Buscemi's like a huge part of Hubie Halloween as well.
Huge part of Hubie, just like everything though. He's always in there, and you're always like, oh yeah, this guy is for some reason friends with Adam Sandler in all of his movies. But yeah, going back, we have 94, 95, Billy Madison comes out. We watched that in theater for the first time a couple months ago, maybe a couple of years ago, but dude, that movie made that theater laugh so hard.
So Billy Madison for me is like probably my favorite Happy Madison film. The concept of it, him going back to school, is so simple, but then it has like this tie-in with him, like he wants to make his dad happy, you know? Like he wants to prove to his father that he can go through grade school again.
It's weirdly heartwarming because it gives a reason why the character is so stupid, but it also introduces an idea of how to like not solve the stupidity, but use it in a creative way where it's like, yeah, then back into school, like the reason he's so dumb, like let's have him act with kids then, why not?
It's the perfect role for Adam Sandler. I think even to this day, like if Billy Madison was coming out now, like he's still such a big kid. And I think this comedy really played to his strengths because he's like, his scene partners are children most of the time. For how silly it is, there's just so many good scenes in there. So much physical comedy that I'm like, the pie scene where they're baking the pie and it just cuts back and he's fully engulfed in flames and he's just laughing at him. Like, it gets me every single time.
That movie probably has like a check mark for every single kind of joke that you could make, even insofar as making weird jokes that aren't politically like correct anymore. For every one of those, there was like 9 other jokes that just like, that movie was nonstop jokes one after the other.
And just like the little characters that are like throwaway but are so good, like, I made them extra sloppy for you.
And here's one of the things that I'll bring up. I think that these older Adam Sandler movies are a bit more loved than some of the newer comedies that he's been putting out. The newer ones being stuff like Grown Ups, stuff like The Last Week, stuff like How It Be Halloween and The Ridiculous Six, versus his earlier stuff, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, kind of like his big trilogy of movies back then. They do what I call the King of the Hill syndrome, where they aren't worried about introducing characters to be funny as well. It kind of seems like nowadays only the main cast is allowed to be funny, versus in these earlier movies they're introducing characters that are just there for a couple of moments, you know?
Yeah.
If peeing your pants is cool, you know, there's so many great characters in that movie, versus when you look at movies now, they'll just hire the cheapest extras to react to things and then spend all the money on like the one main actor, it seems like.
No, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Wedding Singer, Big Daddy, they had heart. Like in the 90s, like you couldn't just make a dumb comedy because there was so much money going into these movies. You couldn't just make them throwaway films. Like they had values, they had messages in them. And I think that's like, it totally elevates the comedy. And I think that stuff like Grown Ups is missing. Like even Click had like a super strong concept for a movie. It's like a reversed Groundhog Day where instead of like having all the time in the world, he's like skipping through his life. And then you get to Grown Ups and it's like a hangout movie, but you don't want to hang out with any of these characters because they're so boring.
Kevin was wearing that KFC bucket on his head, okay? If that's not peak comedy, I don't know what is. And as we're moving out of like the 90s, you brought up a great point too, that these movies had heart, which is a reason why I think that the movies that came out right after these first couple of ones were also so zany. Because for every Big Daddy, what was Big Daddy? It was just like a guy trying to raise a kid, right? That's what the plot was?
So I totally forgot that
I did forget what the plot is.
his girlfriend breaks up with him because he's not mature enough. So he adopts a child to like show her that he's responsible. and then she obviously doesn't go for it, and he just like ends up like having a loving relationship with this child.
And we were talking about this movie too, where we think about like,
hold up,
go for it.
The kid in
Big Daddy,
the kid Julian in Big Daddy is Cole and Dylan Sprouse.
Oh, really?
Did not know that till today.
I think so many of those movies that had those kids back then, people were like, oh yeah, like the little kid in this movie was like, but again, I don't even know who that's the guy from that Netflix show about the kids at the school, but they're like 30 years old.
Yeah, Riverdale,
yeah.
But like they were in like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Wait, is that different kids?
How many twins do you think are in Hollywood, dude? There's like one pair of twins. They use them for everything. That's it. And so after we had like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, these movies were, sure, Billy Madison, you could argue, was like, you might not like Adam Sandler as a character just because he's so annoying. But then we start to get into the weird movies, man. Little Nicky, The Waterboy, these movies where he plays such a big character. And a lot of these movies are, The Waterboy was a character on SNL, Canteen Boy they called him, where again, it was like a short 2 to 5 minute sketch. And then they build these huge, I'm not a big fan of The Waterboy. We were talking about this. Like so many people love that movie, but like
Waterboy, I'm not a fan. It's just, it's gag after gag.
Yeah.
And his character is just so grating. Like it's a great SNL character because you can spend 5 minutes with him. But if you're spending
like 90 minutes,
it's a different thing.
And much like Hubie Halloween, it's this weird punch down genre of comedy where the whole movie is just devoted to like, maybe not so much Little Nicky and The Waterboy, but like I just can't stand when the whole purpose of the character is like everyone laughs at the character. It's so much more endearing when you see these human-esque characters of Adam Sandler, like when he's a good guy, And that is like the end of Hubie a little bit.
I was watching Punch Drunk Love again. Right. Obviously, what's interesting about the movie is like it's a much like darker role for Adam Sandler.
So it's his first drama, right?
Yeah, I think it's still, in terms of like Paul Thomas Anderson movies, I'd say it's like a comedy.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of more comedic as PTA goes. The first half of the movie, he's like this very inept, like super socially anxious, like just sad character. And then he has this huge transformation halfway through the movie when he finds this woman he loves and he says, I have a love in my life that makes me stronger than anything you can imagine. And he says that right to Philip Seymour Hoffman's face. And at that time, like he gets hit by the car and he like beats up these three brothers, and it's like such a cathartic moment because he's like has all this power. And I think in a lot of his movies, like the character just doesn't change, like or if he learns something, like gets up the courage to ask out the girl, and like
it's like a
Halloween. It's like
the ending of an South Park episode where they're kind of mocking the whole let's do a little speech and round this up, but like so many comedies just end like that where it's grating.
Like if the transformation happens naturally and gradually throughout the film instead of just like, oh yeah, like I guess I need to be a different person.
Here's the thing about Punch Drunk Love though, because Adam Sandler only started acting, he was on SNL from 94 to like 96 or something like that.
90 to 95.
Yeah, and then these movies in the 90s. Punch Drunk Love came out in 2002. People are saying that Adam Sandler's only now doing these like drama roles. He's always kind of been like, for the first like 5 years, do you know how he got Punch Drunk Love?
No, I don't know.
Paul Thomas Anderson visited the set of Little Nicky and was hanging out.
Paul Thomas Anderson loves Big Daddy. Like he adores that movie.
And when he was hanging out with Adam Sandler, Magnolia came out. So he told Adam Sandler, hey, go watch Magnolia tonight. I want to write a movie for you. And Adam Sandler went, watched Magnolia, loved it, and was super scared. Like he called PTA and was like, I don't think I can do this, Like it's like, no, I'll play up your like strengths and stuff. But like PTA saw through these movies, like the fact that he saw Big Daddy and was able to see the character of Barry, it's phenomenal. And I think that needs to be his like kind of parallel movies. Like for every movie he does where it's like Big Daddy, there needs to be like an accompanying piece where it's like it's the Punch Drunk Love, where it's like here's his character but like a bit more serious and a bit more fully evolved. Like I love that.
And I don't know whether after Punch Drunk Love I think it obviously gave him confidence. I don't know if he was just like finding these great directors and these great projects, or these other great directors were finding him. Like we have Noah Baumbach, Meyerowitz Stories, and then the Safdie brothers, Uncut Gems.
I think what happened was that he did Punch Drunk Love in 2002, it says here. Yep. Same year he's doing Mr. Deeds and 8 Crazy Nights.
Yeah.
I was gonna go see 8 Crazy Nights, and then the ticket person was like, this isn't a kid's movie, right? Ugh. But I think what happened then was that he became so popular that he wasn't able to do another serious movie for quite a while. I mean, he had like Spanglish come out, and it wasn't until Click again 4 years later that he's doing a bit more serious thing. But I think what happened was that he just got so freaking busy with Happy Madison. Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, he created Happy Madison from those.
Yeah.
And we see different films that come out that are either written by him or just produced or executive produced by him. And in this time period, dude, we got some of the best comedies of all time. I know Adam Sandler's not in these movies, but he produced them. Like, have you ever seen Grandma's Boy?
Grandma's Boy is
It's the best video game movie of all time.
I think it was a sleeper hit for a while, and I think it's like a lot more well known now.
Yeah, it's definitely cult status now.
It's amazing.
It is so funny. But again, it's kind of playing the field of like how goofy it can be. It doesn't have those moments in comedies that I hate where it's like the fake, you know, the fake emotions, the fake feelings. Oh, here's what I really feel.
Yeah.
Instead, it just has like great conversations and kind of like witty humor and stuff where it's like, yeah, the guy gets the girl in the end, but we didn't have to have a fake like runaway scene and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, no, it's like a lot more situational and like less reliant on gags for sure, which I think a lot of other Happy Madison stuff is just gags, maybe only gags.
Yeah. And again, people do great on Adam Sandler for doing these things where they're like, oh my God, Adam Sandler's only doing this movie because he gets to go to Africa and hang out with Drew Barrymore for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So what?
At the same time though, like I understand, like Punch Drunk Love, like I don't think made much money at all, and like it wasn't even that critically acclaimed. I think it got like buzz at Cannes, but like from other critics, I don't think it got the recognition it deserved, especially at the time.
Adam Sandler comedies, since like the year 2010 and onwards, they usually range for the budget around $50 to $100 million, and they make at least $250 million. These movies make so much money.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, I didn't see that Hubie Halloween was coming out and I was like, you bastard!
Yeah,
like,
you sell out.
How could you do this? Like,
you look like you're having the most fun in years.
Like, I get it. Like, at least you're still doing stuff like Uncut Gems. Like, at least you're still making cool drama stuff. And it's like the whole one for us, one for him sort of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Jim Carrey approach where he's kind of doing like a Michelle Gondry show on the side, and then he's doing, you know, Mr. Popper's Penguins to buy his paint supplies.
Jim Carrey's fell off so much more.
And that's the thing. I think Adam
Sandler is at least much more prolific.
I'd say Sandman is the best comedy drama actor right now. Like, I can't really think of anyone, because the films that he is dramatic in are so perfectly written for Adam Sandler. We all know the story of Uncut Gems. The Safdie brothers spent like 10 years trying to get him in a movie, you know? Yeah, and in the meantime, you just have all these like other, you know, the Ridiculous Six, where wasn't that movie was the most watched film on Netflix within like 48 hours of it coming out of all time.
Yeah, which like pains me because like because they keep making them.
Yeah. Well, and again, we all know the story of Adam Sandler said if Uncut Gems doesn't win an Oscar, he's going to make the worst possible movie ever.
And I don't think Hubie Halloween is like the worst movie ever made.
No, it was. And again, I watched it today and I laughed a lot during that movie. I really thought that Hubie Halloween could have been one of his classics if he didn't do the whole, I'm going to play an SNL character for 90 minutes. Because again, it just pains me that, could you imagine that Billy Madison, if he did the voice the whole time, how horrible that would be? Yeah. The great thing about these movies is that
was like Hubie Halloween. Like,
that's the thing.
He did the voice the whole time. And like, if he just tempered his performance a bit and just acted, I don't know. I think in a lot of the films, especially the ones that have come out in the last 10 years, he's putting on this mask. Yeah. And then you watch something like, I watched Meyerowitz Stories last night.
Oh,
and he's
so good.
He's just
so good.
It's the mask is gone.
Yeah.
He's just, he's present in the scene and he's doing great acting instead of doing a character.
Yeah, and I do think that also because, you know, he owns Happy Madison, they do all the films together. I'm sure he has like a crew of people that it's like he's either working on fun crew, everyone knows each other, Kevin James is showing up, or it's like he's doing a little indie thing and it's like a lot more serious because it's like his job basically versus like hanging out. You watch the Hubie Halloween credits and everyone's having a freaking great time there. After every time he yells, he like laughs and stuff. And that's the thing. I love watching him have fun. I miss being on set so much where it's like everyone just hanging out and goofing around and stuff.
No, and it's probably like one of the best sets to be on. And like it's so cool that he's at the point where he can make stuff with his friends. And I was thinking about it today too, and it's like even if Sandler only made like one drama film every 10 years, I'd be happy, you know, because like I don't want it to be like he's like, oh, I'm a dramatic actor now, and have him burn out.
Well, I'm trying to think, like, so what do we have? We have Uncut Gems. We talked about Meyerowitz stories. Yeah. Spanglish. All I remember from Spanglish is, like, eggs for some reason. I remember just, like, he eats, like, an egg sandwich. It's, like, burned into my memory.
Yeah,
but then also,
Spanglish is pretty forgettable for me.
One of my favorite films is Funny People.
Funny People's great.
The first half of that movie, I think, is perfection. The second half, yeah, of course it teeters a bit, but like that movie was about Adam Sandler, right? It was about a guy coming back. I absolutely love that we're getting these movies where, have you seen Top 5?
No, I haven't seen Top 5.
Adam Sandler has a cameo in as well, because again, good friends with Chris Rock, good friends with like Jerry Seinfeld, and
Top 5 is the movie Chris Rock directed.
Exactly. And I love when he plays like an elevated version of himself where like the fact that Funny People had like the movie where he turned into a baby. I wanted to be young, not this young. And it's like, and I think that movie, when it came out, it won me over Adam Sandler in terms of he gets what he's doing. He knows the movies he's making.
Yeah, he's super self-aware.
Yeah, and I think a handful of times it has gotten him in trouble, though. If we're going to talk about advertising and Happy Gilmore and Adam Sandler movies, so many of his movies have so much just holding Reynolds wrap and pumpkins in their hands, and like, there's a lot of it in those movies.
Again, he's just trying to make that paper. He needs to make these cash cows so he can do other stuff. And I think from like what you see on social media and stuff, Adam Sandler seems to be like very family oriented, which is like reflected in his movies. So it's like, I get it. He wants to take care of his family, and
everyone's always making movies for their kids. And I'm pretty sure that in Hubie Halloween, some of the children were his as well. I feel like his daughters were in it. But even on his like, I think it's a TikTok or his Instagram, the dude makes hilarious Instagrams. Like, that guy is so funny at home. And I think that's what makes me like him so much. The fact that when he did Grown Ups 2, he showed up to set and the costume designer was like, here's all your costumes for the movie. And he goes, I kind of like what I'm wearing today. And he just like ended up wearing that. Like, we know people that met him in Toronto because they film so often here. And like, he's wearing basketball shorts all the time. Like, he loves like taking pictures and just like chilling. Like, it really does seem like he is a guy that really gets it. And I hate to say that like these comedians kind of have like a little, like people like Chris Rock and Adam Sandler, they get who they are and they also like play with it. You know, they understand. Like, do you know what Adam Sandler's net worth is?
I didn't look it up.
$420 million.
It's a lot of money.
But the fact that you look at him and he's wearing basketball shorts, that means he's a cool guy in my books, you know? Like, I think it's just like the fact that like, no matter how much money he accumulates, he's always going to want to do these silly, funny voices. He's always going to want to do, I want to make a whole movie where it's like a scared Halloween guy, you know? And it's like, it's hard to say no to him. And I think that in his mind, he sees it as, if this is just another Adam Sandler movie, it won't be as funny versus if I'm doing like a kooky character the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard not to point out, Maya Rudolph is married to PTA. Do you think PTA was on set for Hubie Halloween?
I hope so. I really hope so.
He hasn't put him in another movie since Punch Drunk, has he?
Well, that's the other thing. Like, I don't know if he offends like with like these directors, you know, like he hasn't been in another PTA movie. Like, I don't know if he'll ever be in another Noah Baumbach movie. It's
and then he did do a short with the Safdie brothers, but yeah, it kind of seems like he's making his way through like I think he might be in a freaking Wes Anderson movie in like a movie or two, you know?
Yeah, no, I think he's just like, there's probably all these people that he's like, these are great directors. Yeah. I'd like to work with them before I retire, you know? Also, weird movie for Ray Liotta to pick to be one of his like 3 movies he does every decade. I love Ray Liotta, man. And obviously people love Ray Liotta too, because like he was in Marriage Story.
For less time than Hubie Halloween.
Yeah, he was more of a major character in Hubie Halloween than Marriage Story.
And I was ready for him in Marriage Story. He was in like 2 scenes max, yeah.
No, like Hubie Halloween, like the cast was like absolutely stacked.
And yeah, Tim Meadows, like there's so many funny people in that movie.
I think too, like the rom-com stuff he was doing for a while, 50 First Dates is really excellent. Again, it's like this just concept movie where it's like, what if you were trying to date someone who couldn't remember every day?
And that's the thing too. You can describe his movies within like a sentence or two. Like all of his best movies, dumb guy goes back to school, you know? Guy adopts a kid to impress his girlfriend. Versus like when you get to stuff like Grown Ups,
Grown Ups doesn't have a plot.
No.
Grown Ups doesn't have a plot. They're not trying to accomplish anything. It's like the whole plot of the movie is their coach dies, and so they put the team back together.
The plot for Grown Ups?
Yeah. What? Of course I know the plot for Grown Ups. Their coach dies, that he coached their basketball team when they were kids, and so all the kids from the basketball team reconvene for the funeral at the cottage.
It's The Big Chill. Grown Ups is The Big Chill.
I've never watched The Big Chill.
It's about a friend that dies and they all come together for a weekend. And that kind of sounds like what Grown Ups is.
It's like when you hear about Step Brothers was based on Umbrellas of Cherbourg and like stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah.
Did you just make that up, or is that
No, that's real.
I don't even know what you just said.
Umbrellas of Cherbourg is like this like very colorful, I want to say French film that Adam McKay was like, we're not going to tell anybody, but like this is going to be based off this.
Really?
Yeah. So I think you have all these comedy directors and they obviously love movies and non-comedies. I don't know, weird stuff gets kind of integrated. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was modeled after The Big Chill.
Well, and again, there's no way of telling if it's going to be a hit or miss. Because again, we have The Cobbler, which kind of seemed like it was going to be more serious.
What is The Cobbler?
So The Cobbler came out, and it's a movie where he's a cobbler, but when he puts the people's shoes on, he becomes them.
Oh, see, good concept.
Right? He does all these big concept movies, which I'm totally okay with. When you have a concept like that, I'm fine with. Versus, again, when it's like Hubie Halloween, it's like that wasn't a concept. That was just like a series of scenes put together that were funny.
I could not tell you what the plot of Hubie Halloween was, and I watched it like a week ago.
Yeah, it's like his mom was the killer or something, but she was...
Straight up, June Squibb. Amazing. I love June Squibb.
Every time she shows up in a different t-shirt in that movie, I know that's a dumb joke, but my God, was she funny.
Yeah.
And Adam Sandler loves putting like funny old women in his movies too. Like that's the thing. Like when you watch these Hubie Halloween movies, you do get a little lick of the 90s. Like you get a little sense of like, yeah, we're kind of making these dopey jokes, but like you kind of forget about it. But The Cobbler though was, I was gonna say, one of his only flops as a drama, because it was gonna same kind of tone of like 50 First Dates and Click, where it's like funny, and it was by Tom McCarthy, the dude that did Spotlight, the dude that directed Spotlight.
You're
did The Cobbler.
You are kidding me. And this came out after Spotlight or before?
Before Spotlight.
Okay.
And it didn't make much of a buzz, you know, and it came out like the same year as Top 5, I think.
And same with like Reign Over Me. I think Reign Over Me, like it's not one of those movies I really remember.
One of the only movies that uses video games as a cure for depression in a he's playing Shadow of the Colossus, where you're just riding around on a horse like toppling these giants. It's incredible. It's like they actually like, and again, we haven't seen that movie because it's hard to watch a 9/11 movie like that, but I do genuinely want to watch that movie again, because like I remember when it came out, like even the trailers made me like teary-eyed and like misty-eyed, and I was like 10 years old at the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really speak for it because I haven't seen it in forever, but it does seem like maybe like one of those like drama baity movies a bit. But that might just be like the wraparound of 9/11. Whenever someone's making a 9/11 movie,
it's hard not to.
Yeah.
And again, I think that he's doing a movie right now called Hustle, where he goes to China and he finds a guy that plays basketball and he wants to bring him back to the States. Adam Sandler's on a big basketball kick right now. Shaquille O'Neal's cameo in Hubie Halloween made me laugh so hard.
Amazing.
So funny.
Yeah.
And again, even in Grown Ups 2, like I can't not laugh at Shaquille O'Neal, you know?
But again, it's just like these huge gags where it's like, oh, like that's just my radio voice.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just a bit much. But
so what do you think Adam Sandler should do from here on out? Do you think he should kind of balance it out where it's like you do a comedy a year, maybe produce a Happy Gilmore, Happy Madison Company one and do something serious? Or
I just think enough people love him that he could be making like 90s style Happy Madison films again. Like I really don't know. I mean, I know what's going wrong with like stuff like Hubie Halloween. It's just like it's all gags. There's no actual good writing going on.
It's super transient, where it is a funny enough movie, and it's like it's if you had Billy Madison without all the small like memorable parts. But even in stuff like Billy Madison's, like what's one of the most memorable lines for me? Like when he draws the blue duck. And what was so funny about that is like he's so earnest about it. When he says, well, I really wanted to see a blue duck and I've never seen a blue duck before, so I drew a blue duck. Versus everything in Hubie Halloween was
there's a certain amount of sanity in the comedy, which makes it so much funnier.
Exactly. When you ground it, like you need to have like a Bill Murray. Like he really needed to have someone in that movie to like bring it down every once in a while.
Yeah. And like I said, so many people love him. He could get any writer, any comedy writer he wanted to make like write a movie for him. And I don't know if that's part of his process that he just like, I actually don't know who wrote Hubie Halloween.
He co-wrote it with just, some other random guy.
Yeah,
but
just get a single legitimate comedy writer to write something.
Just get people to punch it up. Like, why not? And Hubie Halloween.
I mean, Hubie needed more than a punch up, but
it kind of comes off as kind of like cheap, because again, like stuff like Billy Madison is like the grand finale was that big, and even like let's talk about
the dance number,
the music, dude.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. It's so it adds so much to the movie.
Oh
versus...
man, and like the scene with Steve Buscemi where he calls him up and he's like, hey, like, I'm sorry for bullying you all that time. And Steve Buscemi just lays back on the couch after crossing his name off the hit list and puts lipstick on.
One of my favorite things ever.
Amazing. And it's just those little tiny things that are just like, wow, like that hit me right in the feels. And
boy, am I glad I called that guy. Versus, it kind of just seems like so many of these other Hubie Halloween movies. Again, I don't like watching a punch down movie. I like with these movies where like you punch upwards with these dumb people, because at the end of the movie, everyone's gonna accept them for who they are, and it's just super lame and just super like. Yeah, that whole ending of Hubie Halloween, it was just so stark and bland and boring. Like nothing really happened. I don't know. I think, but again, let's just talk about Sandman. I think he's picking decent movies. I think the movies he's picking nowadays aren't anything like he should be ashamed of or like sinned for,
No, honestly, like I'll be pretty happy if he keeps the same trajectory.
Yeah.
Negative outcome for me would be he's like, oh, like I tried to give my 100% with Uncut Gems and got pretty much not no recognition. Like it's going to be a huge cult movie, and I think it already is.
Well, it's hard not to. Again, it's like it's all punching down Adam Sandler. Like, why didn't they give him anything for that movie? I'm sure he got like anything that's like not Academy Awards. Like I'm pretty sure he won Independent Awards and all sorts of things.
No,
but it's just hard that like everyone knows Uncut Gems was like a transformation movie for Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And they don't acknowledge it. So guess what? You're getting ridiculous 7 now.
That's an Oscars problem. I don't think and I think Adam Sandler's smart enough to know that it's just a political thing instead of like has no reflection on his actual like amazing performance. If we just continue down the same road, him making, I don't care if he makes Ridiculous 9. Like, if he just keeps making like a few good dramas with like really good directors, I don't care how spaced out they are.
Because we got what? We had the Meyerowitz stories, and then between them we had The Week Of, which I didn't even finish, and I freaking love Chris Rock and Adam Sandler together. I cannot believe how bad that movie was.
Didn't see Week Of, Murder Mystery,
Murder
Sandy
Mystery
Wexler.
Was so bad, dude. Murder Mystery was like the most boring, by the numbers movie I've ever seen in my life. Like the casting was just so bad to have Jennifer Aniston play off of him, where it's like, with those movies, I kind of get it. He's just doing it for the paycheck. But again, I do think he's doing that just so he can do Uncut Gems. And, even the fact that he did Goldman versus Silverman, a short film, in the meantime, it shows us that he understands what art and film is about and that he can genre hop so easily versus like when you see most people that do dramas and go to comedies, right? It's all playing off of how serious they are. It's all playing off of Liam Neeson's doing, comedy now. Yeah. Versus there's so many of these comedic actors. Like comedians are the saddest people around, man. Yeah. Like I'm sure that all these comedians can do phenomenal. Like you've seen Kevin Hart, in these remakes with Bryan Cranston and things like that. Like they're trying to give these comedic actors more of these serious roles. But again, they just need to have like the right writers for them, I think.
It's just the age-old thing too. Like if you have a director that just gives these comedians space to work, their improvisation, like
the fact that the Safdie brothers used a lot of non-actors just so that he could improv and kind of like get real feedback and real like responses from them.
No, then you get people that are classically trained that it's like they're on book, sure, but it's like they're maybe not going to give you that kind of wild card of a take,
Would you rather never have a comedic Adam Sandler movie again or a dramatic one? It kind of seems like for comedies, he's like tied up the knot of like perfect comedies where it's like, but also I think Uncut Gems is a perfect movie too. Like I really don't know which he would be better at, to be honest. Maybe with age and wisdom and things like that, he can get back into the comedies, but it's like, I think this guy should just take 5 years and just make like 3 more like fantastic movies.
I think he could just...
He's young!
He doesn't need to keep making the volume that he's making. He could sit back and he could just make dramas and I'd be super happy, even if he just did one like every now and then. Like he doesn't need to make these movies in between. I don't know. Maybe the property tax is crazy in LA.
Yeah.
But
one of the best things about the Meyerowitz stories too, though, is that the fact that it's an ensemble comedy, right? He doesn't really get to play off of people that often.
Oh my God, the scene with Ben Stiller where they're just fighting. They're having this verbal fight on the lawn, and it's like dollying back and forth as they keep walking away and getting closer to one another, and then it like finally comes to blows, and like the camera's like rumbling on the grass with them.
Is like the sister with them, just like in the background or whatever.
They're like on a college campus. They're at Bard.
Yeah.
And like other like students are like watching as like Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler are fighting on the grass, and it's like all these like cutting things they're saying about each other. Oh my God, I love it.
What do you think? What Adam Sandler movie do you think he's least happy about, just in terms of quality, just in terms of reception?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because there's so many that you can kind of brush off, but there's also so many that like I genuinely have like a problem with deep inside. Like, remember That's My Boy? Those were some of the hardest trailers to sit through when they came on cable.
Yeah, I think
it was
like the Jack and Jill, That's My Boy.
Yeah, that was a tough
Zookeeper kind of time.
2011 was just a horrible time, just because again, like the upcoming of Netflix, and like it kind of seems like they were just like churning these movies out. We got so many of them so recent that people were like, is Adam Sandler done? Is he just making these like terrible movies for the rest of his life?
And Jack and Jill is like, I'm pretty sure still the worst reviewed movie on
Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the worst. It's got like, I don't know what it's got. I think it's like 1.
I hope it's a 1.
I think it's 1 or 2. Yeah, it's got a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's gone up.
Because of us. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Leave a like and subscribe, and let us know what your favorite Adam Sandler quote is.
Stop looking at me, Schwan.